About to cut the end of these bloody cross members off with the paw.
What's up, guys? Jordan from Bennett's Customs. We are on the race car today, which is really exciting. So today is kind of day one of trying to get the frame sorted. And we're just basically going to try and lay out kind of an idea what we think is going to work. There's going to be a bit of trial and error. But yeah, basically just going to try and come up with something that I think will look pretty cool and also be functional as well. It was kind of funny. An old gentleman just passed by and we were explaining to him what we're doing with this car and said something about making it a shoehorn because I'm obviously a really tall bloke and the car that we're building is quite small and very narrow. So it kind of stuck. I really liked it. So I think the name of this is going to be the shoehorn. First off, we're actually just going to try. I got some cardboard here. I use this all the time for templates. It's that 1.5 mil template. You can get it at like Bunnings or any craft store. But yeah, it works really well to make templates out of. What I'm going to do is try and actually just figure out the front part of the frame where we'll have that front mount plate that'll fix to the leaf spring. The frame itself, it is going to be 600 mil wide from the outside of our frame rails. For all my friends in Canada and in the States, that's about 23.6. I actually Googled it, so that's exactly what it is, but nearly 24 inches. So it's going to be a relatively narrow frame, but that's just to fix those motor mounts off the front of the flathead and yeah, keep it pretty narrow. Right now, I'm just going to try and do some measurements, figure out what's going to look best and be functional for that front part of the frame. And yeah, so let's get stuck into it. Kind of want a bit of flat. So throw it up. So what I'm doing right now is just marking out my frame rails. We are using 100 by 50 by 3 mil box tubing. That won't actually entirely be boxed. I will be cutting sections out of the center rather than just doing your traditional kind of C-channel. Yeah, I think it'll work. It should be functional and, you know, relatively strong enough to hold me fat ass inside the thing. But basically what we have here, it's kind of hard to see, but these are our frame rails. Our center point is here. I'll just quickly draw that out so you can see it. And we're just going to try and make like a really nice radius that's going to follow coming off, you know, off those frame rails into something. And probably not perfectly round, but maybe something with a bit of a flat spot here. So yeah, I'm just going to try and kind of come up with a really nice curve. And basically what's going to happen off this is I'll make a steel like kind of similar to a track nose that'll come off the front of this frame rail. So everything will flow quite nicely and kind of be parallel and symmetrical to itself. You know what I'm saying? Oh, maybe a 40 Ford wheel. This could be for the profile of the front of the frame. Nice and round. If we hold it on there. Oh my gosh, that is literally perfect. How's that for? That's insane. That is. Then I can come in. No, I'll actually draw that out after I cut it. So, I think we just lucked first shot, like right off the bat. This is, oh shit. Oh no. So that's the profile there. So this is outside of the frame rail. This will be the inside. And then off the front of this will actually be the plate that'll come out that'll fix the leaf spring here. So yeah, I think that's gonna work. All right, so I did make it a little bit narrower. So the outside of the frame rails are actually 550. So this will be the front bit that will attach up to a leaf spring mount.
Shoot, mate. Play it.
Now we're just working on that front horseshoe. So what we had done from the original template from the cardboard, I've transferred it now onto a bit of 5mm steel, and I will end up actually putting another kind of thicker piece of plate on here just to strengthen this area, because this is going to be a problem area for flex when the leaf spring is mounted through here. But for now, I will end up cutting all this out. It's kind of hard to see. I've just done this with a 25mm or 1-inch hole saw, just so it has a nice radiused edge where it transfers and there's no sharp edges. And basically that's going to be the bottom mount, so that'll go underneath and hold the leaf spring. Yeah, so this is basically the front of the frame. Always make sure you put your weld seam to the inside. You don't want to be looking at that on the outside of your frame rail. But yeah, so what essentially I'm trying to do, as many as you guys have done this before, is I'm just gonna basically cut right along this line, and I'm gonna go up, cut a pie out of it, and then I'll use the clamps and I'll pull that piece in. So it'll naturally come in and it'll come to a taper. And it just gives a bit of curve, you know, just aesthetically it makes the frame rail look a little bit nicer than running, you know, your standard box tubing square frame rail all the way through. So let's, start laying some lines out here, and we'll get to sitting on the angle grinder for the next 10 hours while we cut this. That's 70mm. So what the idea is here, now that we've cut both those pies out, we'll just grab a couple clamps. So what we'll do is we'll clean up all the edges and kind of V them out a little bit, just so you're making sure you get lots of penetration on your welds. Essentially, that's kind of what we're after. So, you know, naturally, if you were looking down the side of the car and the body came to the top of the frame rail, which is kind of what I'm trying to achieve with this. So when you're looking down the side, about right here is where you'll have the mount for the tie rod, and then the wishbone will follow down this way. And yeah, it'll just give a really nice curve. We'll V this in and we'll just basically filler that up. And then, yeah, sand it smooth, and we already have our nice radius. So it'll look like it was never there, and should, you know, replicate a cool old style chassis or frame rail that we want to make. So all I'm doing is just marking out where we're going to notch the top of the frame rails out for the horseshoe to sit flush in, so that this is all one continuous surface. Alright, so we got the top mount tacked in to the frame, everything is flush, and what I'm doing now is just trying a different technique from what you just watched me grind that out with the angle grinder. I'm just going to use the plasma cutter and see if I can get this radius similar for the bottom part of the frame portion of the shoehorn. So we'll get stuck into cutting this out now. Alright, so we just welded in a couple of 25 by 25 by 3 mil square tubing pieces. Basically, all I'm trying to achieve with those are to keep everything level off the top of this frame and everything fixed properly. So everything is square, everything is level for the top plate. Now what I'll do is the same to the bottom, just so that the width between here doesn't change and everything is, you know, running on the contour of the bottom of the frame rail and the top of the frame rail. Perfect. I'm going to make some cardboard templates, and that's basically going to be for the pieces that will sit inside here. So what we have done is taken that 100 by 3 mil flat plate, and basically I've just used a speed square, clamped it into place to make sure everything was square off the top of the spring perch, and we've just formed it around, worked our way with a clamp on each side, and just tacked along the edge and on the inside of this outside panel. And what I'll do is, after everything's tacked all the way around and fitted into place, I'll go along and trim the bottom area of this, and then we'll weld that corner edge. got the frame back on the table. It's tacked down, it's square, it's level, and now I'm fitting the rear Model A cross member. I did some measurements while everything was on the floor, and I knew that the top of the cross member has to be from the top of the frame rail 200 mil to give us a level playing field as far as the frame goes. So what I've done is just added a few little blocks to get it to that desired height. We've triple checked measurements trying to get this thing square. For 90 years old, it's actually in really good shape. It's not too twisted. So basically what I'm going to do is tack this into position, and then I'll remove this top brace, and we're going to actually make some cardboard templates that come off this that fix straight to this. So basically afterwards this entire thing will get cut out, you'll lose it all, but we want to be able to make sure everything stays square the entire time while tacking it and building the plate. So we will end up tapering the bottom of this frame, and then again building some little swoops up with a bit of cardboard, and we'll transfer that onto some plate, cut those out, and we'll sandwich weld these, fish plating it and fixing it to this, and that should kind of end the end of the frame until I have the boat tail and need to know kind of where it needs a little bit of structure to hold that body. So we're going to tack this in, cut that top brace out, and start making some fish plates for it. So after a bit of arts and crafts, we finally got the cardboard template that we're going to use for the kick-ups for the rear frame rails. And yeah, so basically we'll make these, try some out of steel. I've just left this excess here just for just to see what kind of where we need to go. I don't want to cut them off premature and not have something for that rear structure of the body. So we're going to transfer these onto some steel, cut them out, and then we'll get tack these in. Alright, so we got the fish plates done for the frame. They got that nice little sweep to them, and then basically they're going to get clamped, box them in, and both sides and that. I've had these machine rivets for ages, all different sizes of them. I got jars and jars of them. I found them at a garage sale back home in Canada, and I've literally carried them around forever, and I finally found a good use for them. So what we're going to do is I'll end up TIG welding around this whole plate, and then basically the frame's going to be tapered and follow straight into that. But it's obviously fake. I've just TIG welded them in the back, kind of notched out the fish plate there. But I think it'll make a really neat look, almost make it look like they were part of the frame and riveted in there. So I think it'll be a nice piece. So I just got to do the other side, and we'll start tacking these in. So both sides are the kick-ups are done now. They're all clean, sanded. Tried to get obviously this original cross member as clean as we can. It's pretty nice to see old 90-year-old steel. But yeah, we've got them all square on this side. I'm just kind of limited on clamps at the moment. So what I'll do is tack this side, move over to that side and use the level, get everything square. I've triple checked it about a million times, but yeah, it should, you know, once we tack it in, I'll be able to eliminate the outside of the cross member and trim the rear section of this frame rail off. Last night, I also just tapered up the frame just to flow really nicely into this kick-up. So we've done that to both sides, and that's just kind of complementing the front of the frame as well. So yeah, we're gonna get stuck into getting this thing tacked up, and then we'll move on to the other side, and we get to cut stuff, which is very exciting. Alright, so we've managed to get the entire upright welded to the cross member, and I've just done a few welds on the actual fish plate of the frame itself on the bottom and the top. So now I'm just going to tack in this top boxing plate, and then we will flip it over and should be able to cut the majority of all the bits that we don't want, and it should look like a cool frame. Theoretically.
Bloody cross members off with the paw.
As you saw, I did just use the plasma and whack off the ears of this cross member. I'm trying to make this look nice, and I'm trying to figure out a way of doing that. So I'm just going to roll with an idea. I'm actually going to trim this all off and make it flush, and then I'm going to make a nice little plate that'll kind of sit over it with a few rivets similar to what we've done down on the fish plate here. Just trying to make it, you know, not add too much to it, make it look crazy, but it'd just be neat to maybe make it look like it was supposed to be there. So that is what we are going to try to achieve now. tech tip, these plates have obviously been welded on with silicon bronze. They're not a structural part of the frame, really. They're just kind of an end piece just to try and, you know, make it look a little nicer. We obviously want to blend it and have it really smooth around the edges, similar to the other side. And I learned this trick from Jason Ferris, an incredible bike builder. And he, basically those little roll-lock wheels that you always keep, don't throw these away when you have used them or they start to get a slight curve in them. A really cool thing is if you use, obviously, your die, I've ground this one down just from over time, but it's quite small, so it has a lot of hangover. But if you cut it into a square, don't use sheet metal cutters. These ones are rooted though, so that's why I'm using them, and I can't find scissors. So that's why we're using these. But if you cut a square off, basically, you can even go sharper on the edges too. But what that is going to do is it's just going to be able to only contact these four sides, and it'll start to curl. So as you're going down, it's not going to take a whole lot of material out, but basically just kind of give it that really nice curve, or that, you know, that transition that we want to try and get. So I'll show you now. You have it on, you can obviously just see the overhang on it, and then I'll just put my safety glasses on, and you can watch as and after a few passes, you can really start to get that smooth. So after we just go over it with finer grit, I'm using 36, I believe, on this thing just to take the meat out, and then I'll drop it down. But yeah, basically that's just takes it right out, and you get a really nice finish. So I'll finish this off. We'll roll this edge as well. Alright, so we got the frame flipped over onto the bottom side of it, and what I'm doing is I've just kind of filled in those plates where we've done the uprights for the cross member. I've actually cut off the lips of where the original Model A cross member was across, and I'm just going to flush mount those. I'm not going to do anything with these yet because I don't know what we're going to do as far as the rear rails go, but I'm just using the MIG just to do those passes, because I will be grinding them back and radiusing the corners. Yeah, just a little bit quicker than using the TIG, but she does the job. So I'll finish welding these up, sand them, and the bottom bit of this portion of the rear frame is going to be finished. So exciting. So we just got the frame up on its side, and I'm just welding the bits where we tapered the actual frame itself. So I'm just spacing my welds out back and forth, obviously letting them cool down a little bit between. And then once those are finished off, I'll blend them so you can't see them, kind of similar to what we've done here. This frame rail is actually fully finished now. And then with techniques of blending your welds, like you could obviously MIG weld this easy, but I'm just using the TIG welder. It's just a little bit less grinding. But I am just using 60 grit flat discs, sometimes step it down to a 120. And I feel like these work really well. when you're trying to get stuff kind of flat and square. They are just like a interface pad or a hard sanding pad that attaches to your grinder. I just put 80 grit on there. You kind of come off the edge and you can just kind of roll it off just so it's like real uniform and smooth. And then you just finish it off with your standard DA sander with some 80 grit for now, and that'll kind of get us to where we need to be with this. So we're almost there. So watch as we finish welding this up. As you can see, it rolls, which is pretty cool. We've got the frame back on the rear axle, front axle's all bolted in. It's a roller now. Yeah, really happy with the way the frame's come out on this. It's not quite finished. There'll be a couple little things we'll have to alter and do it as we you know, start to get this thing more looking like the car that we're trying to achieve to build. As you may have seen, the motor is in, and on the next video we'll show you just how we ran into a little bit of problems with the motor mounts, just purely on measuring, and yeah, and then the turnout of the front motor mounts, the rear trans mounts. Yeah, everything turned out really cool, and I'm super happy with it. And then following that, obviously we're going to dip into the suspension. Going to show you how to reverse eye the springs. We're going to take this Model A spring out of here and actually reverse eye it and bend it into a Model T shaped spring, which is kind of cool. I've done it a few times before, so you don't really need to go out there and find that Model T spring if you have an A one. We'll show you how to do that and get this thing lowered down a fair bit more, and then it's on to making some body panels. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Hit that notifications button as well, just for next week to see a bit more progress. And yeah, look forward to see what you guys think.